So in this episode we were fishing for crappies and we were catching them 5 or 6 feet below the surface in 12 foot of water using slip bobber rigs. So today I just wanted to show you how to set up a slip bobber. First thing you want to do is you want to put your bobber stopper on. I like these little rubber bobber stops. A lot of the slip bobbers come with the little string style ones that you thread up and then tighten. I don't like those. They never seem to work for me. These work much better. I usually like a slightly smaller one than this. The smaller they are, the easier they cast through the eyelets, which makes it easier to get more long distance casts. So we've got this little loop, and all you're going to do is stick your line through the loop. I missed. Stick the line through the loop. I missed twice. I can't see it. Okay. Stick it through, and once it's on there, all you have to do is feed the little stopper onto the line by pulling it over. And once the other end pops through, your stopper is on the line. Now, the way this works, this is tight on the line. I'm actually using 8-pound fluorocarbon right here, and it takes some pressure to move it, so it's not going to freely move on its own. So once that's on there, you just slide it up out of the way, and then you want to thread your bobber on, and these just have a little hole that runs through the center. The rest of the shaft is hollow, and once it gets to the bead, it's going to stop. So when you cast out, initially your bobber is going to be down here. It's going to hit the water, and your weight is going to pull the line down until your stopper hits. And that's how you determine the depth. So if I wanted to fish 8 inches, right there, 10 inches, 12 inches. If you're fishing with a 6/6 rod and you're trying to hit 6 foot of water, you just make sure your bobber stopper is at the tip when your hook is on the ground. That makes it easy to quickly gauge how deep you want your bobber to be set. Alright, so the next thing, and you can do this at the end if you want, but I'm just doing them in order of how they appear on the line. The split shot, I usually like 2 kind of medium-sized ones for a bobber of that size. So what happens here is this ends up functioning like a stop on the opposite end. So now the most shallow we can go is however far it is to this hook. The deepest we can go is however far it is to the stopper, but you can move either to adjust. If I'm fishing with a minnow, I like to give it a decent amount of length between the split shot and the hook, because then the minnow will swim around and appear more natural. If you've got the split shot just a few inches above the minnow, it's not going to be able to swim. It's going to die quicker and not look as natural in the water. So I like to keep them up higher. You can space them out and have maybe a small one down lower or something like that, and that's good to experiment with depending on different situations. The size of your minnow, the wind, all sorts of different things, the current. Alright, so I just threw this hook on with a polymer knot, because I pretty much almost always use a polymer knot, because it's the best. Alright, and this is an octopus circle hook. I'm not even sure the size, but something that size, like comparable to your thumbnail in size. That's a good minnow hook. You can hook them in the back, and it's big enough to still stick out and hook your fish. You can also hook them up through the mouth, and you still, like, if this is the fish's mouth, it's still sticking up good. So that size is appropriate for minnows. Also pretty good for worms. This is kind of my general all-purpose worm live bait hook. Alright, so all together, you've got your hook. I've got, in this case, about 1.5 foot maybe before my split shot. And that's kind of about typical what I like to try and do. And then I have my bobber, which slides up until it hits the stop. And on my 6.6, you know, anywhere from like the third guide to the tip, depending on, you know, what you're trying to do. But if you're going for really deep water, you can thread this up and, you know, down the line until it actually gets your reel. And that would give you 12 foot of depth with a 6.6. And if you need more than 12 foot of depth, then probably use a longer rod so that you don't have to reel it through. But if you were using like a long crappie rod, like a 9-foot rod or something, that would get you 18 foot of depth, or anywhere between 18 and a couple inches. So that's the advantage to the slip bobber. When you cast it out, what happens is it hits the water with the sinkers, and then immediately the sinkers start falling down faster than that. If you want to have a really nice falling action to your lure, especially if you're fishing with like a jig in soft plastic, or, you know, like a fly jig, a marabou jig or something like that with a wax worm, you can use a really lightweight so that it falls slowly. And a lot of times you end up picking up more fish just when you cast it out and it's just kind of falling and then swinging down slowly, and they just smash it and you just see your bobber go flying under all of a sudden. If you want to get it down quick, you know the fish are at 8 feet and you want to get it to 8 feet, you just throw a couple extras on there so it drops right down instantly, and that way you're not sitting around waiting for stuff to drop. But it makes it pretty easy to do a pretty versatile rig with the slip bobber. And in this case, this is how we were catching our crappies. We were just back hooking them with the circle hook so that when they are hanging there in the surface, they look more natural. I think with the back hook, in river current, I tend to just go through the nose, because then they're always facing upstream and they don't die. They look more natural that way. But in a lake or a pond, I tend to back hook them. So let's check out that video footage of us catching some crappies with our slip bobber rig.
You guys want Dad to sit here and do all the work.
I got 2 rods out. You guys can use those. They got a bunch of other rods that people can use.
Dad's rigs up and watches them.
There's the first fish of the day at the crappie pond. Not a crappie, but a good warm-up. Alright.
Whoa.
Ellie likes to do the release.
Bye-bye.
Today I'm trying out the power bait crappie nibbles. I've never used them before. I know there's crappie in this spot because I've been catching them on wax worms this last week or so. So we're gonna give this a try, see if they like this any better, any worse. Berkeley power bait crappie nibbles. Oh, you lost your worm? It could be. I think I just lost one too.
And I might have a string thing.
You can try one of these things.
Okay, but can you help me untangle it? Pretty
Oh,
bad
it's
too.
tangled again?
Yep, but here now.
What's going on here? Are you tangling it, or do we got a fish? No, we got a fish.
Oh, I've been thinking we had fish.
This guy hit a wax worm on a jig under a bobber.
Dad, I think once you cast that, Dad, think there was a fish there in the beginning because it was acting strange.
Well, you should have said something. I had no idea until it yanked the rod over.
But then it started to act normal. So,
Fish number 2 of the day. Awesome. Nice one, Mom.
hey, it's raining.
It's not. It's trying to eat. It's like he can't eat the fish. He's wanting the fish. He wants the fish.
Wait, back in the fish.
Alright. Throwing them in, Boo?
Yeah.
It's a nice one.
Is that good?
Hi, fishy. Bye bye.
Alright, get another one, Mom. That's a nice one, too.
Can I fish with that?
Sorry, I meant to let you reel that in, didn't I?
Yeah. Let me reel it in.
Wow.
Let me reel it in. Are you giving
Okay, you gotta use the phone to look, because I'm busy doing other things.
I'm holding by the mouth again.
He deserves it, but...
First crappie?
Yeah, I gotta get a picture.
Is it the first crappie?
Second one. It's just like seeing.
Bye-bye.
Go ahead, Boo. Crappie number 2. It's another nice crappie.
Got one. I got one.
Nice work, Booski.
I got 2.
2 crappies for Booski.
0 fish for me.
Well, maybe you need to come cast over here where they're at. Gotcha.
Crappie is like
Cheese to dad.
oh my. Take me out.
Nice work, Boo. You're a pro.
Bye bye, fish. Touching your fish.
Mhm.
Can you pick up a fish?
Oh, Owen, grab that and reel it in. There you go. Crappie.
Oh, I got a crappie.
Oh my gosh, I'm the only one that hasn't caught one now.
You've already caught one.
Oh.
Not in front of your face, though. I caught a fish. Finally, got it. Oh, fish on it. Oh, where is the only sun in the sky? Oh, he was. Yes.
Oop.
Seems like I'm right here.
Okay, you can drop that right back over the edge if you want, Owen.
This thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
The crappie. Owen's first crappie of 2020.
20. 20. I'm dropping it.
Go ahead.